With your spirit guides, what I recommend, let me just explain it first. Once I'm done explaining it, then I'm going to ask you to go through it with me, and I will go through it with you. So just hold tight as I explain some of this. First thing I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you ground. Okay. So there's two different ways that we can ground. Not a lot of people know this, but two ways that we can ground is one is imagine like a cord coming out of your root chakra, going deep, deep, deep down into the center of the core of the earth and wrapping around the core of the earth, and make that cord nice and taut, nice and tight, and ground yourself really good. Another way that you can ground, and I'm going to have you do, is ground through your feet. So imagine like roots coming out of your feet, going deep into the ground. You don't have to be on the grass or anything like that to ground. You can ground. When I used to work corporate, I used to be in a skyscraper downtown. I'd be on the 8th floor and I'd still be able to ground through my feet. So it doesn't matter how you are, if you're standing, if you're sitting, you could be doing, if you're sitting cross-legged, just imagine the roots coming out and going deep into the ground, and ground yourself nice and solid. So we want to ground ourselves. The more that we're grounded, the better. It's kind of like a kite. The stronger the kite is grounded, the higher it can fly. Okay? So that's grounding. Again, don't do this yet. I'm going to walk you through it. I'm just explaining it. Okay? So the next thing after grounding is I'm going to get you to center yourself. Okay? And so what I mean by this is a lot of times we live either really, in the past. So we think of things like regret, we're constantly dwelling on things that happened, maybe woulda, shoulda, coulda's, guilt, shame, all those things are kind of like in the past. And we replay this over and over and over again. And then, or a lot of us, we also live in the future. So we're worrying about what's going to happen in the future. That's causing anxiety, stress. We're not sure what's going to happen. And I remember one time I read this quote from Albert Einstein, and he said that 98% of all things we worry about never come to fruition. Can you imagine that? 98% of all things that we worry about never actually happen. And I thought about that quote. I'm like, what? Really? Is that actually true? Like 98%? Is it really that high? And then I started like looking at my life and thinking of all those times I'm worrying about things. And then the next day or whatever, it actually wouldn't happen. I'm like, wow, maybe he's right. So a lot of times we're worrying about the future. We're thinking about the future, and it's causing a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. So what I'm going to have you do when you center is you're going to gather all that energy from the past and bring it to the present. Gather all that energy from the future and bring it to the present. We're going to bring you nice and centered, nice and present. Okay? And then after that, the third thing I'm going to have you do is channel using source energy. Okay, so what I mean by this is what happens, so if you look at your belly button and you have your solar plexus chakra and your sacral chakra, and then just above your sacral, or just below your sacral, but above your belly button, is where your chi energy is. So depending on the culture, it's all the same thing. So chi, ki, prana, dantian, it's all in this region. So if you watch like chi masters or qi gong, that's what they're doing. They're working with this energy here. So what happens, I've noticed over the 20 years I've been teaching people how to channel, is that not everybody, but quite a few people, they draw off of their chi energy when they're trying to channel. And then in a very short period of time, maybe a few hours, they're eventually getting really tired, they're getting drained, and that's not necessary. So what I've done is I've developed another technique for my students, because eventually where I want to get all my students in their channeling journey is where they can just channel anywhere, anytime, on the spot, in the moment, any situation, any circumstance. And it's no big deal. Like, it's just a normal part of your everyday life. And that's how I live my life. That's what I teach my students how to do. And that's where I want to get you to do this, eventually to this point. So how do I, if we think of like our chi as like a battery, over time, that battery becomes drained or depleted. But if we use source energy, it's kind of like plugging in to source. You never become depleted or tired when you channel. So the way that you're going to do this, again, don't do it yet. I'll get you to do this in a minute, is I'm going to get you to draw in source energy through your crown. You're going to draw it in, and you're going to have it go in both directions. So you're going to just, don't be shy with this. Like when you do it, have it really come in nice and solid, really strong, get it all the way down to your root, all the way to your root chakra, and then all the way up in both directions. And that's one thing a lot of people don't realize, is that it goes both directions. It's not like it just comes in through your crown. You're going to have it go in both directions simultaneously at the same time. And not just a little bit above your head, but a lot above your head. So really like expand it nice and big, nice and wide, while you're doing the source energy, drawing it in. Okay. So now we've talked about it. Now we're going to do it. I'm going to have you do it all together. Okay. And then the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to have you channel your spirit guides in a bit. So a little bit about our spirit guides is that our spirit guides are people like you and I in non-physical form. When you die and you cross over, you'll go to the astral realm to be with your soul family. And while you're incarnated, certain members of your soul family will help and assist you. These are your spirit guides. My experience training like thousands of people over the years is that most people have somewhere between 3 to 5 spirit guides during any one season of their life. Sometimes 2, sometimes 6, but usually 3 to 5 is what I've noticed is what most people have. And each spirit guide helps in a different way, different area of your life, and different situations and circumstances. So you can have a spirit guide that's with you for your entire lifetime, or you can have spirit guides that come and go throughout different seasons of your life. Okay? And also the amount of spirit guides that you have can change. So one season of your life, you might have 5 spirit guides. Another season of your life, you might have 3 spirit guides. And another season, you might have maybe 4. So they could change as well. But when I say season of your life, it's not like it's, every week or anything. We're talking like a major shift in your life. You might get one spirit guide who steps back and another one who steps forward to help you with that next phase of your life, the next phase of your journey. Okay? The important things to remember is that your spirit guides, they're people like you and I, they're not angels, anything like that. They are people, and they're not necessarily ancestors or people that you've known from this lifetime. My experience has been that most people's spirit guides are people you've known from past lifetimes, not from this lifetime. Okay? So just what I'm going to ask you to do, one of the most important things about learning to channel is putting aside anything and everything you think you know about channeling, about who your spirit guides might be, and just trying to go in clean and clear like you know nothing about nothing, because you want to get yourself out of the way. You don't want to influence the answer. So if you've ever seen like a psychic or a medium and they've told you who your spirit guides are, for this remaining part of the course, what I'm going to invite you to do is just do your best to try to put that aside. And maybe who comes in, maybe they really are your spirit guide. Maybe who you think is going to come in is your spirit guide, or maybe not. Maybe someone totally different will come in. And another thing I want you to note is that when I first started teaching people to channel 20 years ago, they didn't have the technology that they have now. Now we could set up highly sensitive camera systems in your room, and we could capture your spirit guides on camera. How cool is that, right? Like, can you imagine? Where, 20 years ago, I'd be like, your spirit guides are real. And they're like, sure, Ken, sure. And I'm like, no, they really are. They're like, sure, Ken. So just know, the reason I'm mentioning this is just know that what you're about to experience is real. And we could finally capture it on camera. You might have seen them on like these ghost hunter shows and things like that. But the technology does exist. The technology is still in its infancy. But over the next 5-10 years, as the technology increases, we'll be able to capture your spirit guides in even more detail and more detail and all that. So what I'm going to have you do now is I'm going to actually have you do it. Okay. So first thing we're going to do this nice and slow. So if you're sitting watching this, I recommend you just sit up straight, put everything aside. You don't need anything right now. And I'm going to get you to go ahead and close your eyes. Okay. And now I'm going to have you go ahead and ground yourself. So ground yourself the 2 ways that I mentioned earlier. Go ahead and ground yourself through your root. Imagine like a cord going deep, deep down into the center of the core of the earth, wrapping around the core of the earth. Make it nice and tight, nice and taut. And then have your also ground through your feet. Imagine roots coming out of your feet, going deep into the earth and anchoring into the earth. So go ahead and do these now. Okay, and just a note is just remember to breathe while you're doing this. So, but keep your eyes closed and just kind of breathe into your body, relax, we're having fun. The slogan for what I teach when I teach my students is spirituality is meant to be fun. So we're having fun, we're exploring things, okay? So we're keeping it light and fun. Keeping your eyes closed, grounding. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and center yourself. So gather all that energy from the past, bring it to the present, gather all that energy from that's scattered in the future and bring it to the present and go ahead and center yourself right here, right now. Okay, and then keeping your eyes closed, go ahead and smile. We're having fun here. Good. Okay, next thing you're going to do is go ahead and channel using source energy. So you're going to just leave your chi alone. You don't have to do anything with your chi or dantian. You just leave it there. You're going to go ahead and draw in source energy through your crown, draw it in, and then have it go in both directions and all the way down to your root and then above your crown, both directions. Make it nice and big, nice and strong. Don't be shy. Flood your whole body with this source energy, like you're plugging into source, tapping into source. Okay. All right. Now, the first thing I'm going to get you to do is go ahead, again, with your eyes closed. You'll be able to take notes in a minute. Is I'm going to get you to go ahead and just feel around you right now in your room. And if there was one spirit guide physically around you, where might this guide be? Okay, just trust what you're feeling. Just go with what you're feeling. Just remember, if the highly sensitive camera systems were in your room right now, we'd be able to capture your spirit guide on camera. Just know what you're feeling, what you're experiencing is real. And how does this spirit guide feel on this side of you or the front and back of you? What does their presence feel like? What does their essence feel like? Good. Okay, now remember that your spirit guides, they're people like you and I in non-physical form. What does the spirit guide's personality feel like? When you feel into them, what's their personality like? How would you describe them as a person? And what might be some other characteristics or attributes about this spirit guide? Okay. And now, if the spirit guide were to give you a message right now, what message might the spirit guide be trying to give you? Okay, so just do your best to try to trust what you're receiving, whatever that message might be, and just see if you can have your spirit guide elaborate a little bit more detail on this message they're trying to give you. Okay. All right, so now going ahead and thank your spirit guide. Thank them for coming in. Thank them for helping you. Good. Okay, so now you can go ahead and gently open your eyes. And what I recommend you do, if you have a pen and paper, a notepad, or in your phone or computer or whatever, if you want to go ahead and just take a few moments and jot down some notes of what you experienced. So what was it like to ground? What did that feel like? Maybe that was the first time you actually intentionally grounded both ways in your life. What was that like? What was it like to center yourself, gather all that energy from the past, bring it to the future, gather all that energy from the future, bring it to the present, I meant. Yeah, so centering yourself. And then what it was like to channel using source energy. How did that feel? And then where was your spirit guide physically around you? What does their presence feel like? How would you describe them as a person, their personality, anything else? And then any message that your spirit guide or messages that your spirit guide gave you.